Alright guys, so we're going to be making a pop art inspired painting, specifically inspired by the ice cream prints and paintings that Andy Warhol did. The first thing that we're going to do for this though is we are going to make a monochromatic value scale. So we've talked about value in the past in my class. Value is the gradation from dark to light or light to dark, however you like it. So if you think about a value scale from dark to light, the darkest being black, of course, and the lightest being white. So this would be a value scale. So here I have my darkest black going through the grays, more grays until you get to white. You can do this with color as well. What you do is you start with the pure color. The best way to do this is to use one of the primary colors. So the primary colors are the colors on the color wheel, red, yellow, and blue. Those are the colors you cannot mix. Everything else on the color wheel is a mixed color. So secondary colors like orange, violet, and green are mixed with two of the primary colors, and then we have tertiary colors like yellow, green, blue, violet, things like that. So what I'm going to do is I've got a paper plate here and I've got a brush. I only need one brush for this, and I've selected two colors. So I'm going to use red because red is my favorite color, and I've got white. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start this paper. We're going to do the monochromatic value scale on. So we're going to start at the top with red, and then as we go on, we're going to add just a little bit more white to the red, so it's getting progressively lighter as we mix. We'll start with red, a little bit of white, paint some here, a little bit more white, paint some here, until we have a monochromatic value scale on our paper. Then what we're going to do with this paper, once it's dry, is we are going to trace some ice cream cone shapes and cut them out to make our ice cream cone, and our ice cream cone will have that value scale on it. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm not even going to add any white to my painting tray. I'm just going to take my brush here, and I'm just going to start by painting just pure red at the top. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to give myself a little bit of white on my palette. I'm mixing a lighter color into a dark. The darker color is always going to be stronger. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab a little bit and I'm going to mix that in, and it's just going to slightly lighten my red. And I'm going to take that color and I'm just going to paint the next stage. Okay, so you see I've got my pure red up here, and then I've got my next color here. Okay, don't spend too much time blending. Grab a little bit more white, go back right into where you mixed. Don't go into your pure color because you'll have the same value. Grab that color, paint the next value. A little bit more white. See how this works? It's actually pretty easy. Go back onto my paper, paint the next value. And you notice how I'm sweeping the brush across. That gets the paint to mix and spread evenly. So like sweeping a broom. Think of it like sweeping a broom. Okay, a little bit more white. So you can see I'm going from my darkest red down here to lighter white, and I've got these little edges in here that are kind of a little bit irregular. If I just take my brush and I sweep across, they blend a little bit. Try to cover up the paper so you have lots of space to cut out your ice cream cone scoops. Okay, more white. And now what I'm doing is I'm just grabbing white. There's still red on my brush, but not very much. So it's gonna still mix. And I'm not gonna have pure white down here at the bottom. It's gonna be pink, but it's still a value scale, even though I don't have pure white down here at the bottom. So there's my paper. Now all I need to do with this paper right now, put my brush in my water, rinse it out. You don't need to, clean it, rinse and wipe during this process at all, because you're mixing the whole time with that one brush, and you want the color to stay on your brush. You don't want to ever rinse it while you're mixing these values. What I want to do with this paper is, of course, first of all, before you started painting, I hope you put your name and your code on the back. And then we're going to put this in the dry rack and we're going to let it dry. It probably won't be dry by the end of class, but it's possible. The next stage will be tracing our ice cream cone shapes out of these different value scales, maybe just 3 scoops. So I'll have a dark scoop, a middle scoop, and a lighter scoop. All right, so here's what you're going to do while you're waiting for your value scale to dry. We want to make a background that we can glue our ice cream cone scoops that we're going to cut out onto. What we first want to do is we want to choose a background color. Now, The best thing to do is to choose a complementary color. Complementary colors are colors that are opposites on the color wheel. So if you look at the color wheel, which is above my screen, you will see that red is directly across from green, blue is directly across from orange, and yellow is directly across from violet. Now, I chose red as my main color that I painted my scoops with. So a good color for my background would be green. What I want to do is, I don't want to just use straight up green. I want to have a nice pastel colored background. I want it to be very light because I want the emphasis, which is the thing that you notice the most about an artwork, the thing that pops out the most, to be the ice cream scoops in the cone. I'm going to make a tint of green. You can think of it as mint green. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a tiny bit, same mixing tray, tiny bit of green into my mixing tray, a bunch of white. Now at this point you would want to have rinsed your brush out thoroughly, then you should be good to go. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take these two colors and I'm just going to whip them together like you're making some pancake dough or something like that. All right, now that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that color. If you would want it a little bit lighter, you would add a little bit more white to it. I think this is good. You want to make sure that you have enough color to cover your whole entire paper. So, and you don't want to take too much because it's a waste of paint. You're just going to throw these palettes away when you're done at the end of class. We're not going to hang on to these or save these at all. So all I'm doing now is just like I did with my monochromatic painting, I'm just brushing the color across. You can go up and down too to kind of get rid of those thicker areas. Of course, I hope you put your name and code on the back of this paper as well before you started painting. It's really hard to put it on the back. One thing that you can do, if you forgot, which I know we all forget, we all, everybody makes mistakes, nobody's perfect, nobody can remember everything all the time. If you did forget to write your name and code on the back of your paper, then the easiest way to fix that is to just take your pencil, gently with your fingers, lift up a corner of your painting and write your name in the corner, okay? It's pretty easy. And then you might have a couple of fingerprints there. You just grab your brush and tidy that up just a little bit. You're gonna wanna put this in the dry rack. You're gonna wanna put it right next to your value scale. So both should have your name on it, both should be in the dry rack, and then they will be dry and ready for next time.